England's performance against Congo felt extremely disjointed, and throughout the first half, their press was completely ineffective. They were outnumbered in midfield and didn't know how to track any of the Congo attackers. So what happened? What did Tuchel get wrong for the first 70 minutes of the game? And ultimately, how did they find the perfect solution? The first thing to look at is why England's press was so ineffective. England was set up in their usual 4-2-3-1 against Congo's 4-3-3. And the problem here is exactly because of this extra man in midfield. Early on in the game, England would look to press with Kane and Bellingham moving on to the two centre-backs, with Rashford and Madueke picking up the fullbacks, and Rice and Anderson on the two box-to-box midfielders. The issue here is that Mutusami was completely free to receive the ball. In a situation like this, a lot of the times what you see is one of the centre-backs breaking the defensive line and picking up one of the midfielders, allowing one player to move forward and pick up the holding midfielder, ensuring there is no free player for the team in possession to play through. But England's back four kept their line consistently. They wanted to keep a 2v1 against Wissa and didn't want to free gaps in behind. Congo took advantage of this extra man in midfield brilliantly early on in the game. England's attempt to narrow this gap in midfield was to have either Rashford or Madueke move inside when play shifted to the opposite flank, meaning Congo's fullback on the opposite flank was completely unmarked. But at least England could protect the centre. But as soon as play would shift back to this side, the advantage for Congo would appear once again, especially because of Mutusami playing extremely deep between the centre-backs, and neither Rice or Anderson were comfortable pushing that far forward to close him down. So Congo were consistently able to retain possession in midfield, and it's this shape that led to their goal in the 6th minute. Congo circulate possession from the left, and we can see England marking their respective counterparts. Except in this situation, Kane finds himself outnumbered, as Mutusami is dropped between the centre-backs, meaning Mbemba can receive the ball and push forward. The second mistake for England happens here. Anderson would be tasked with following Siddiqui, but as we saw earlier, Tuchel's plan for England when play was on the opposite flank is for the winger to invert and pick up the extra midfielder, allowing Rice to push forward and Anderson to pick up the last of the three midfielders. But here England are late. Anderson loses track of Siddiqui, who drags away Jed Spence, leaving Sepenga completely unmarked on the back post, who finishes nicely past Pickford. I'm curious to know what you think England should have done in this situation. Do you think England should have rotated like we saw earlier? Do you think Rashford should push up and leave Wan-Bissaka? Should Anderson simply not have left Siddiqui on the left, allowing space to stay on Sepenga? Or is it Madueke who needs to help Spence out on the left? Let me know what you think down below. The only thing that was clear at this point is that there was no communication between any of the England players. Nonetheless, this man advantage in midfield for Congo continued. Straight after the goal, we can see just how ineffective Kane and Bellingham's pressing was. No matter how England attempted to close down the centre-backs, even with Rashford joining the press, England were far too slow to shift from side to side, meaning Congo could consistently break forward, with the rest of the defence and midfield being all the way back in their half. So there were clearly some major issues Tuchel needed to fix. But even beyond these positional issues in defence, England looked lethargic. They were slow to close down their opponents and were giving Congo far too much room. For example, in this clip here, Congo switch play with a long ball into Sepenga, and Spence slowly shifts over to this side. In a situation like this, it's important for the fullback to get as tight as possible before the winger can control the ball. However, here Sepenga has all the time he needs to put the ball down and attack forward, eventually finishing the move with a great dummy to get past Spence, and only narrowly not finding Wissa in the box. And this problem continued for the vast majority of the first half. Congo had an amazing opportunity towards the end of the half, that all originated from Wissa not being marked in midfield, with time to switch play to the opposite flank, where Rashford doesn't track Wan-Bissaka's run, and with a deflected cross finding Wissa, who scrapes the post and gives England a lifeline. So at this point, England were struggling enormously defensively, and looked extremely disjointed every time Congo broke forward. But as the game progressed, the more concerning problem for England slowly became the fact that they were now going to have to play against a low block for the remainder of the game, something we know they've struggled with in the past few matches. England did have some great chances in the first half, and forced some incredible saves from the Congolese goalkeeper, mostly through these excellent box-crashing runs from Bellingham. But it was clear they were going to need something extra in the second half. After the break, it was clear that Tuchel had addressed the biggest issue England were facing in the press. We see in the first few minutes that Kane closes down one centre-back, and Bellingham stays tight on the holding midfielder. And only once play starts to shift to the other centre-back does Bellingham push forward, giving Rice enough time to cover and balance out the press. Even from goal kicks, we see a much more aggressive position from Gay, closing down the midfielder and allowing Rice to push forward, meaning England can man-mark all of the Congolese players. This change made it much harder for Congo to retain possession, and as a consequence, England were much more in control in the second half. Which is clear when we look at the momentum bar as well, with much longer spells of possession and dominance from Tuchel's side. So we could start to get a better idea of how England wanted to break into the box, and they were similar patterns from what we saw in the first half. Like with all low blocks, it is nearly impossible to break through the centre, so play needs to shift out wide, and from flank to flank as quickly as possible. This means you are heavily reliant on your wingers, as the vast majority of chances are going to have to come from their ability to either dribble past the fullback or deliver a cross into the box. England had shifted to a pretty aggressive shape with the ball. The rest defence was formed by the two centre-backs and Anderson, with Rice and Bellingham playing in the pockets and the two fullbacks being free to attack the half space and drag away a defender, in an attempt to free the wingers in a 1v1. But here is probably where the biggest issue for England was in this game. Before we look at that, if you like these animations you see in this video, then they're all made with my tactics software FM Stadio. FM Stadio continues to grow, and we're quickly building an incredible community. We recently just added the ability to install FM Stadio onto any device, so you can create your animations even without an internet connection. We are constantly listening to everyone's feedback, and we are actively updating the software with more and more features every month. And it's so exciting to see how many coaches and content creators are already using FM Stadio. You can try it for free using the link in the description down below. So at this point, the problem for England was getting the ball into the box from these positions out wide. Madueke and Rashford struggled to beat their man, and their delivery was rarely precise enough to cause any harm. So the move was consistently breaking down in these positions, and England would restart their attack. So at the 60th minute mark, Tuchel made his first changes, bringing Saka on for Madueke and Gordon on for Rashford. But then after the hydration break, two more tactical changes, with Rice dropping in as the right back and Eze coming on for Jed Spence. This was a brave move for Tuchel to make, giving England an extra offensive-minded player and removing one defender from the mix. But the payoff was nearly immediate. The triangle on the right with Rice, Eze and Saka was instantly able to break into a dangerous position on the flank. And with Rice's cross being picked up by Gordon, he plays a perfect ball back across the box for Kane to finish off the move. This new offensive shape allowed England to consistently up the pressure, and in the 85th minute finally found the breakthrough with Kane once again. Gordon picks up the loose ball on the edge of the box, and finds Kane, who smashes home to make it 2-1 and send England through. Overall, it felt like a pretty mixed performance from England. Personally, this is the shakiest I've seen them in defence at this World Cup. But in attack, there were some promising signs. There are clearly still some issues that need to be addressed in attack, specifically down to the wingers and their ability to take on their man or cross into the box. But overall, England did create a lot of chances in this game, and the scoreline would have been much more one-sided if it hadn't have been for an excellent performance from the Congolese goalkeeper. So for England, it's on to Mexico at the Azteca next. And there's a lot of talk being made about this environment. So do you think England will struggle against the home crowd and at the altitude at which they have to play? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.